All right, family. Shalom, shalom, peace. What's up with y'all? Everybody all right? All praise, all praise. Shalom to the family online. Shalom to Sister Catherine, Ivan, Kohath, Ashar, Denise, Ron, Bayan, the House of Byron. Shalom to all of y'all and everybody else who's going to be tuning in. This closing Shabbat class here at MOTC. I want to give all praise and glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. As you can see, the title we're going to go into is Calculating the Lord's Feast Day Made Simple. Understanding the calendar is very important. How we maintain and keep our feast days is part of the ordinances and the laws that the Most High granted to us. It's part of our ceremonial aspect of the laws. It's important for us to know. Sometimes it can get complicated. Sometimes it can be more simplified. I'm going to try to do it as simply as I can. Hopefully everybody can follow along and understand as we're going to be putting out our calendar dates, Lord willing, within the next week. We'll put them out and publicize them for brothers and sisters. But just wanted to give everybody a little bit of heads up regarding calculating the feast days and or at least acknowledging, how do we do so and creating and maintaining the calendar. Because Lord knows there's going to be a time when information won't be streaming online. Prophets of the Lord is going to be hidden. And brothers and sisters are going to have to understand and know how to maintain when your leads and guides and shepherds aren't around. So let's open up. Miles, hit that button. I'm going to share this PowerPoint with y'all so you guys can, pay attention on the screen as well. And we'll go from there. I want to start off with reading out of the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, the understanding of the calendar, or the word calendar. So according to the Bible Dictionary, written by Zondervan, what does it say regarding the calendar? You just read the highlight part.
This is the Zondervan. This is the Zondervan Bible Dictionary for the word calendar. During the Bible period, time was reckoned solely on astronomical observations. Days, months, and years were determined by the sun and moon. Days of the week were not named by the Jews, but were designated by ordinal numbers. The Jewish day began in the evening with the appearance of the first stars. Days were subdivided into hours and watches. The Hebrews divided nights into 3 watches. The Jewish week had its origin in the creation account and ran consecutively irrespective of lunar or solar cycles.
All right, so the first thing we understand is that it said that we operate off of a lunar solar calendar. We use both the moon and the sun to determine our days and our months. We have to use them combined. We don't just use one. That's why it's called a lunisolar calendar, because we use both. That's why we're going to read the scriptures when the Most High created the 2 great lights in Genesis 1:14, told us they were to be used to determine the days, months, years, so forth and so on. So we got to use both. Okay. Also, in the earlier part of it, it said that the Israelites utilized astronomical observations. So we utilize the ordinances of the creation of the Most High to determine our days, months, weeks, years, so forth and so on. So all the nations learned from that same principle, but started creating their own calendars, right? And they ended up even worshiping sun, moon, the stars, so forth and so on, creating deities out of it. That's what we didn't do. Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, the Most High told us not to make any images of anything that we've seen in the heaven above, earth beneath, male, female, animal, or what have you. Said, lest we be drawn to worship the sun and the stars. Hold on, let me get that real quick in Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, and let's pick it up at start at verse 15.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire.
All the way down to 19.
Verse 16. Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground.
So the Most High was letting us know that we were not to corrupt ourselves by making graven images, meaning what, carved or sculpted images that would be brought into forms of idol worship. Okay, go ahead.
The likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all the nations under the earth. Oh, it's like under the whole heaven.
All right, so the Most High made sure that we were only to use these instruments of the heavens for our astronomical observations so that we can determine our days, months, weeks, years, so forth and so on. All right. Go back and finish that up in the Donovan.
The Hebrew month began with the new moon, after the exile names adopted from the Babylonians were used. Synchronized Jewish sacred calendar. Number 1, Nisan, March to April. Number 2, Iyar, April to May. Number 3, Sivan, May to June.
So he's reading the names of the months as they were given according to our Babylonian captivity. They said the name of the first month was Nisan, which always falls between March and April. So even the Babylonians knew that your new year will start during that time season. March, April. Never no dang January 1st. That didn't come in until later on down, I think in like, I forgot. I want to say it was like in the 1800s is when they first started even acknowledging that as being the new year of observation here in America. But nonetheless, all the ancient cultures knew that the new year began in the spring season between March and April. We know it as Abib. The Babylonians call it Nisan. Okay, go ahead.
Number 3, Sivan, May to June. Number 4, Tammuz, June to July. Number 5, Ab, July to August. Number 6, Elul, August to September. Number 7, Tishri, September to October. Number 8, Heshvan, October to November. Number 9, Kislev, November to December. Number 10, Tebeth, December to January. Number 11, Shabbat, January to February. Number 12, Adar, February to March.
Now that's important. February to March. So Adar, that's the last month, the 12th month, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at this PowerPoint. That's all I need out of this. So I'm gonna share my screen now, and I want to make sure. All right, so everybody can see that. Now, the reason why I titled this in within this PowerPoint, no new year, only a leap month, is meaning that this particular year, along with others that we've had in the past and will have in the future, we're going to have what's known as an intercalary month. That means that, well, I'm going to read it. We'll get to it. Give me Proverbs 25 and 2. When we're talking about an intercalary month, it's the same thing as when Esau says it's a leap year. They add one day onto February to keep things seasonal so that they can calculate keeping quote unquote Easter in this spring season. Same way we do, but we do a whole month because our calendar does not go according to January to December. Our calendar goes from March or April all the way up until February, March of the following year. So Proverbs 25 and 2.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 25, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
It is the glory of God to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter.
Right. So, it took some time and some diligence for us to really understand this. A lot of people in Israel, when we first started doing this 15 years ago or longer, a lot of Israel wasn't hip to understanding about intercalary months and actually calculating their calendars accordingly. A lot of Israelites were just going on to the Griffith Observatory, the Naval Observatory website, copying the dates that they got on there and putting out calendars. And that's where, we had to do a lot more due diligence to make sure that we're understanding what the scriptures say. And the most I say, it may seem like it's hidden, but answers is there in order to keep things in their proper season and understand how we keep them according to the laws and the commandments of the Most High. So, we don't do lazy work over here and just go on to a farmer's almanac or whatever and just copy the dates and just keep it moving. We have to do due diligence and search out matters to make sure that things is correct, utilizing 2 or 3 witnesses to make sure that they're all in sync. Even our own visual observations, we have to make sure that we take into account. So Judges 5 and 11.
The book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the...
Hold on one second. So y'all can't see the PowerPoint? You just see my screen? Hold on.
Well, now we can see it.
Now it's up?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know what happened. It was just showing my background. All right. You can continue.
Book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord.
So the Lord was letting us know that in the places of drawing waters and where we're being afflicted and where our resources are being we're being utilized for slave labor and whatnot and being oppressed. This is even during the time of Judges, because of us breaking the laws and the commandments, we are facing judgment. So the Most High said, in these same places and conditions, we are to rehearse the righteous acts. So we're supposed to recount them, recollect them, and start learning how to follow them. So this is why we all came into the truth, learning, oh, January 1st isn't the new year anymore. What was we thinking? It's in the middle of winter. Now we're getting more knowledge and understanding. Recounting and understanding, rehearsal brings us back more into perfection so we can see how the Most High align things up. You guys can write down Baruch chapter 2. I believe verse 30 down to 32, the Most High tells us that in the land of our captivity, we're going to remember ourselves. 30 down to 35. Baruch 2, 30 down to 35 as a precept as well. So we're here searching out matters and learning how to rehearse these same matters that we end up finding out are bringing us more into perfection and following after the ways of the Most High. Was that it? All right, finish that up.
There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel.
All right.
Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates.
I just need 11. Is
Yeah.
that all of 11? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the main point of that scripture is us learning to rehearse the righteous acts. So now we're in rehearsal. We're learning. Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11. And let's read. I want to start at verse because obviously, brothers and sisters here, y'all know. But for those that are learning, that's online and grown accustomed to learning through our channel, we keep the dark moon as a new moon. You got others that keep the full moon as a new moon, the crescent moon as a new moon. We don't find neither one of those scripturally sound. The dark moon is in accordance with what the scriptures pronounce and what we just got the reading out of the Zondervan and so forth and so on. There's a number of different outlets that we can substantiate that. But for time's sake, it's not to determine how do we determine the new moon, but we want to make sure that we know that the new moon is a dark moon, and then how do we calculate an entire month to create a calendar? All right. So just one precept to bring that understanding to come forth is Hebrews 11. Let's read verse 1. Then we'll read down to verse 3 and then verse 6.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Now, just one precept to understand why would we say the dark moon? You know, the full mooners and the crescent moon, they're saying you can't see it. We can't see it. It ain't there. It don't exist. Well, at what point in time are we supposed to exercise faith? Right? The scriptures tell us that now faith is the substance of things hoped for. We know it's there. It just hasn't been revealed yet. We know it's going to come. Right? The evidence of things not seen. How do we know that the evidence comes? Because we start seeing the cycle of the moon go through its phases. It came from a non-existent point or from what is a non-visible point, let's put it that way. And then it starts manifesting and showing itself, but we know that it's there. Huh? So even after that point is understood, drop down, read verse 3.
Verse 3. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God.
So the moon, the ordinances, time in itself was all based upon faith. If you don't have that as your principle, and even understanding the ceremonial laws and the calendar, that's the foundation of how we understand things. So it wasn't based upon, I got to see it to believe it. It was based upon how the Most High established creation from the jump. The Most High said, that by faith I created the worlds. That's the things that are hoped for and the evidence of things that you can't see. So you got to have faith in order to establish a building block, right? Read on.
So that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear.
See that? So that the things that are seen were not made of the things which do appear. So everything goes from a nothing to something concept, a darkness to light concept. All right, drop down with verse 6.
Verse 6. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him.
So we cannot please the Most High unless we're applying our faith. All right, let's go to the creation. Genesis 1. Genesis 1, read 14.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just have a precept to go with the darkness. I don't know if you're going to bring it out or not. 139, 11 and 12.
I don't think I was going to bring that up, but we can go there. Psalm 139. Psalm 139, 11 and 12.
Book of Psalm.
Hold on 1 second. I think I was doing all this. Could y'all could hear, right?
Can
Everybody-
I hear you?
I'm talking about if anybody's on like, 'cause I just realized the mic was muted all the time. You can still hear?
Mhm.
What about before? Like back it up some? Because I think the okay. I wonder what's the recording from, because surely the mic.
Maybe your computer.
Maybe so. I gotta switch the mic. Okay. All right. It's lucky, y'all. I'm just trying to make sure that the sound is coming through. It might be coming through the. Oh, it's coming through the. It's going through the camera. All right. So I'm switching it to the mic now. Okay. All right. Good deal. So let's head back over to the Psalms 139.
Right.
The book of Psalm, chapter 139, verse 11. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, even the night shall be light about me. Yea, the darkness hideth not from thee, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike to thee.
See that? So the Most High accounts both in synchrony. What do you call it? They are all both in sync. The light is the day, and the day is as the night. Both of them work in unison. Okay, but we see that from the jump that the darkness is recognized as a cycle in the creation of the Most High. All right. It says, yea, the darkness hideth not from me, but the night shineth as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike unto thee. So, just like when people say, well, how can you start your day in the evening? Because the Most High just said it. The night shineth as a day. So that gives us the light that we need to establish our new day. Okay. Let me. Hey, Alada, can you moderate and put the scriptures in? Because I'm gonna follow behind. Go out. Let me put. I'm gonna put Psalms in, and then we read 139. Did we read 11 and 12, right? Okay. All right, they're in the chat now. All right, cool. All right, now we're gonna jump back. We're gonna jump over to Genesis. Genesis 1. Let's get to the creation. 1 and 14.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 14. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
All right, so we see that the two great lights, the sun and the moon, are created, and they have a specific purpose, which is to create signs for us to observe so that we can understand and know the seasons, the days, and the years that we're in. All right, continue on. Read down to 17.
Verse 15. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night.
Right, both have their particular cycle. So when we're looking at daytime, nighttime, the sun rules the day, the moon rules the night. We cannot determine that it's a new moon while the sun is ruling. That's out of order. The sun has its daytime to rule. The moon don't come in and be like, look out. They can see me too. I'm sure all of y'all have probably looked up in the sky. You can see the moon during the daytime, just like with the sun. But we don't utilize that as an ordinance for the daytime. The sun determines the day. It determines when the day begins and when it ends. And the evening begins when the moon comes up in its cycle, goes through its cycle throughout the night, and then transfers over power to the sun. All right, so they both have their ruling moments. Everybody following? All right, continue on.
He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth.
All right, so now jump over to Sirach 43. Let's read verse 6.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 43, verse 6. He made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world.
So we see that the moon has its purpose and it has its own time cycle that in a season that is supposed to be in operation, observation, and in power. Right? Continue on.
From the moon is the sign of feast.
So our feasts are determined by our new moons. So the moon establishes our months. Each month, when we read in the scriptures from Leviticus 23 to the Maccabees and First Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and all the other placements in the scriptures that give us months and days when our feasts begin, they get established based upon when the new moon is determined for that month. Okay, continue on.
Verse 7. From the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month is called after her name.
So a light that decreases in that perfection. So when the moon is perfect, what phase would that be? When it's full, right? So they're saying that that's at its perfect point, but it's going to decrease out of that and go back and reset itself again. So Sirach is letting us know, it says, from the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. Read on.
The month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changes.
So now we see that it went from being in its perfect state, it decreased. Now it's saying it increases wonderfully. So that's the phases in which the moon goes through. All right. So you've got, I believe it's how many? 8 phases that the moon goes through throughout the year. Okay. Continue on.
Being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of the heaven. The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars, an ornament giving light in the highest places of the Lord. At the commandment of the Holy One, they will stand in their order and never faint in their watches.
Never faint their watches. So they always maintain their order, and they continually give off the light that's necessary for us to read, observe, and understand how do we calculate our days throughout the month. All right. Jump over to Stan Sirach, go to 42. And let's read verse 15.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 42, verse 15. I will now remember the works of the Lord and declare the things that I have seen. In the words of the Lord are his works. The sun that giveth light looketh upon all things, and the work thereof is full of the glory of the Lord. The Lord hath not given power to the saints to the Lord hath not given power to the saints to declare all his marvelous works, which the Almighty Lord firmly settled, that whatsoever is might be that whatsoever is might be established for his glory.
So the Most High didn't give us every aspect of understanding all of his marvelous works, but what he did give us was sufficient in order for us to continue worshiping him and keeping ceremonial customs. All right, read on.
He seeketh out the deep and the heart, and considereth their crafty devices. For the Lord knoweth all that may be known, and he beholdeth the signs of the world. He declareth the things that are past and for to come, and revealeth the steps of the hidden things.
To reveal the steps of the hidden things. So when we see we don't see the moon, but it still goes through steps of growth. It goes through its phases, right? And y'all can look up, and see the phases of the moon. I remember when my kids was little, I don't know if my wife found it, I found it, but that rap, The Phases of the Moon, that was one thing that helped them, learn and understand, because there was a song, I think astronomy teacher, something. We sound like a Jake. You couldn't see who he was. It was a song on YouTube, but he made a whole rap about the phases of the moon, and it was pretty catchy, and it helps, even with the kids learning about the phases of the moon. And he talks about the new moon, the quarter moon, the half moon, the full moon, the last quarter, the waning crescent and all that. So he gives all of the aspects of the moon. It was pretty good. But it shows you, man, these are the steps that the Most High goes through, even with his hidden things, including the moon. All right. Stay in Sirach, go to 33. 33, let's read 7 down to 9.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 33, verse 7. Why doth one day excel another, whenas all the light of every day in the year is of the sun?
Mm-hmm.
By the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts.
So we see that every day is not alike. Is the seventh day the same as the sixth day for us? Nah, it's a set apart day. It's a holy day. So the Most High was acknowledging that we're going to have different days, that we're going to have observations that are going to have greater precedence than any other days throughout the month, including the new moon. So the Most High gives us 5 days out the month to come together, to celebrate, to observe, starting with the new moon. And then we typically will have at least 4 Sabbaths in the month in order for us to come together, reconvene, rest, learn of the Lord, praise, worship, so forth and so on. Okay. Read verse 8.
Verse 8, by the knowledge of the Lord they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts.
So by the knowledge of the Most High is how we're able to determine these things. Read verse 9.
Some of them hath he made high days, and hallowed them, and some of them hath he made ordinary days.
Exactly. All right. Let's jump over to Psalms 81. Psalm 81. And then we're going to get to moving on a little bit. Anyone start at 3. You can read down to 5.
The book of Psalm, chapter 81, verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day.
So custom and law tells us that we're to blow up the trumpet in the new moon. So the new moon is supposed to be determined and declared via the trumpet. Numbers, the 10th chapter, tells us that as well. So anytime it's a new moon, we're supposed to blow the trumpet to acknowledge the coming in of a new month and to show and prove to the children of Israel that it's now time to start counting your days to determine your feast days, to determine our worships, our days of worship. So it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed. The time appointed, when it's translated, is the Chag, which are the feast days that are hallowed. Let me look that up real quick. I want to give you all the exact. The time appointed. Let me start sharing there. So everybody can see that, right? Psalms 81. If not sharing, give it a second. All right. Everybody see now, right? Still no? What's it showing on TV? I'm looking on the screen. It's showing on mine. On YouTube. It's showing the scripture, right? Yeah, that's what I'm showing. Oh, not on the TV? What's it showing on there? I don't know what's good.
I fast forwarded it.
No, they're just saying that on the YouTube is fine, but on the TV, the monitor, it's still showing the old.
Yeah, I know. It's like on other devices, sometimes it like lags behind.
Oh, I don't know, but it's okay as long as everybody can see it. I just want to show just the Hebrew word for the appointed time. It'll go when we go back. So we see here, if y'all are paying attention on your devices or whatnot. So the you know what? I don't like this. Let me go to it. Oh, you know what? It might be how I'm sharing on here because I just only put it on one thing. So that's showing one thing.
You could tap your phone.
Put it. You gotta put it on YouTube though, right?
Oh,
No. Miles, do me a favor. Get my wife the remote. She'll like y'all online. I'm trying to get this situated over here.
I think you can cast it now. I don't see your name on there, but
It says it's connecting.
yeah, okay. You
It just hasn't done it yet.
Oh, I can found not.
It's not. It's still blank. Yeah, there you go. That way you ain't got to worry about it. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I don't want to connect no more. All right. Let me get back up here. Now this thing is. It's still trying to connect on my phone, and it's kind of froze up my.
Yeah, because somehow you're signed off on this. I don't know why. But it's on there. It's showing perfect.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Showing you straight. And the strong support is next to the right.
All right. All right. So getting back over here. So read that one more time in Psalms 81.
Book of Psalms, chapter 81, verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
So it says, blow the trumpet in the new moon. So there's appointed times that we blow the trumpet. Number one is to establish a new moon. Number two is in the time appointed, because there are some solemn days that we have at appointed time, which is, if you see on here, it says during the time of the fullness of the moon. So what feast do we have when it should be a full moon? Passover, Tabernacles. Yeah. So there's particular hold on. There's particular feast days that we're to acknowledge as Chag, or these other feast days that are have appointed times on our solemn feast day. Okay, so the moon is to determine even those solemn feast days. Here we have what's known as a solemn feast day or a Chag festival. These are days of solemnity, and these are the days like we mentioned before, from Tabernacles to Passover, so forth and so on. So continue reading down to verse 5, and then we'll jump back in.
Verse 4. For this was a statute for Israel, and a law of the God of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony, when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
Right. So getting into us leaving up out of Egypt, going to celebrate our Passover. All right. Let me get back over here. And all right, so everybody's back to seeing the no new year, only leap month, right? All right, very good. All right, so now let's move on. In seeing Genesis 1, 14 through 17, we're seeing the different creations that the Most High made, right? They go to give me second Ezra, chapter 6. Second Ezra 6, 45 and 46.
The book of Second Ezra, chapter 6, verse 45. Upon the fourth day thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light, and the stars should be in order, and gavest them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made.
Right. So the service unto man was to help us to determine our holy feast days and our seasons, right? Psalms 104 and 19. Psalm 104 and 19. One more precept for that.
The book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down.
Right. So that's how we keep things in order through the astronomical vision observations. The sun, he appointed the moon for seasons. Why? Because of the monthly determinations. The moon's going to determine our months. Each month bears us into different seasons throughout the year, as we'll get into later. And the sun knows his going down. So the sun knows his order as well. He doesn't interrupt. The sun ain't coming out at 11 o'clock at night unless you like in Alaska somewhere. And that's when it gets tricky. Or Iceland or somewhere like that. Sometimes Jake's be asking them questions just to be difficult. What if you live in Greenland and they got 20 hours of sun? What are you supposed to do? You still observe as best as you can. I mean, it ain't that hard. I know Alaska, they get, because of where they're at in the equator, they have longer days of sunlight and seasons where it's longer light than we would have over here. So let's say, for instance, if I'm in Alaska, and Alaska during some of their not even some, typically their winter seasons, they may have like 20 hours of daylight. And then they're saying, well, how am I supposed to keep the Sabbath? Or keep it as best as you can according to the ordinances. That's all I can tell you. Yeah. They still, the ordinances are still under the firmament. Everybody's subject to the moon. It's just how the earth is shifted in the equator. Summer's going to get different seasons and times. Like in South America, Our wintertime is their summertime. Same like in Africa, because of how the moon, I mean the earth shifts, they get different seasons and different times of the day and different amounts of sunlight than we do. But wherever you at, you gotta keep the commandments just accordingly, you know. Go to you read Psalms 104:19? Read 19 and 20.
Starting from verse 19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth.
Right. So the darkness is what determines the night. That's the even. That's when we establish our days. All right. We don't look at the sunset and be like, oh, it's even, it's sundown. No, we gotta wait until the moon is in its full cycle, in its full rule. It's dark out. That's when we determine it being the new day. All right. Let's move on. So we've got the phases, different phases of the moon. That's what we talked about earlier. You got the full moon, the waxing crescent, the first quarter, the waxing gibbous, leading up to the full moon, which is what we read in Sirach 43 about it being in its perfection, and then it decreases into a waning gibbous, the last quarter, waning crescent, and then goes all the way back to being dark again. All right, go to Sirach 27. Sirach 27 and 11.
Book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 27, verse 11. The discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom, but a fool changeth as the moon.
Right. So even, Sirach gives us understanding that our ancestors knew that the cycles of the moon always change. We wasn't ignorant looking up there saying, where'd the moon go? What's happened? What's going on? Our people was not that slow and dumb. We knew how to count days. We knew how to establish and see the creations of the Most High, right? It says so a fool is going to change as the moon, speaking about what is cycles. Stay in Sirach, go to 39. Or the phases, I should say. 39 and 12.
Book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 39, verse 12. Yet have I more to say, which I have thought upon, for I am filled as the moon at the full.
At the full. So we see that even the scriptures give us different instances where we see the phases of the moon being pronounced and understood. One more in Sirach 50, verse 6.
Ecclesiastes chapter 50, verse 6. He was as the morning star in the midst of the cloud, and as the moon at the full.
Right. So we see different instances that the perfection of the Most High's creation is acknowledged, the full moon. All right. So just showing you the different phases that are the creations of the Most High goes through. Just like we read earlier, that is going to go in its steps, right? Things that were in secret are going to have their steps and progressions. Now, this is where we want to talk about. This year in particular, we're having what's known as a leap month or intercalary month. That's when we add an extra month onto our calendar in order to maintain our feasts and our seasons, okay? It's very important because Leviticus 23 tells us that, which we'll read later, that all of our feasts have to be kept in their proper season. And I'll give examples and I'll see and show what happens when we don't do that and how that will jack our calendar up and throw us completely out of sync with keeping and following after the commandments of the Most High. All right. So let's read that. Can you read that? Oh, you can see.
Leap months. The solar year is about 11 days longer than 12 lunar months. The Bible does not directly mention the addition of embolismic or intercalary months. However, without the insertion of embolismic months, Jewish festivals will gradually shift outside the seasons required by the Torah.
All right. So, was one thing. Now, it says that the solar year is 11 days longer than the 12 lunar months. That's what ends up eventually throwing them out of sync, okay? Because the moon is moving faster than the sun, and they fall out of sync, and it ends up throwing off the calendar by about a month's time. Every 3 years, 2 years, it goes through particular cycles. It's like 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, 2 years. and then it goes back. So it changes with the time, and I'll show everybody in a minute how that works. Okay, but the purpose is so that we can keep it in season. We got to account for the time lapses that happen between the lunar solar aspects of the calendar. Sun and the moon fall out of sync. Okay. Now it's acknowledging that the solar year is 11 days longer than the 12 lunar months. So let's look, everybody that's got a device, right? Look up and see how many days is a solar year. Let me see if I can do it with you. You got 365 days. 0.2. Okay. Anybody get anything different? Y'all ain't even looking. Like wait for Don. Don found it. Okay.
Can you put that last slide up there?
Which one? Oh, I'm gonna go back to it.
All right.
I'm gonna go back to it. Let me blow this up a little bit. All right. So we say how many? So we can look here, known as a tropical or a solar year, generally what, 365 days. You got 0.2 for, the 0.2 ain't enough to round up to 366, right? So we leave it, we call it fair at 365. That's where America gets their 365 days in a year. Why? Because they worship in the sun. They only concerned with what the sun's got to say. Now it says that the sun has it's 11 days longer than the lunar months, the 12 lunar months. So how do we determine how many days are in a month to determine this lunar month? That's old school, especially for y'all in the solar program. Okay, so let's go there. Genesis 7. Genesis chapter 7. All right, good. By Ivan, y'all got it up in there? Kind. So we're going to Genesis, the 7th chapter. Let's start at, you know where I want to go. Let's get right to the point. Let's start at, start at 11.
The book of Genesis, chapter 7, verse 11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up.
Okay, so here we are. We're talking about what? The flood is happening. It said that the flood began on the second month, 17th day of the month. For those that's at home watching online, write it down. February, for lack of a better term, 2/17. All right. Second month, 17th day of the month. The fountains were broken up. The rains began. Right. Jump over to verse 24.
Verse 24. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days.
So now the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. So now we're trying to determine what next. From the second month, 17th day of the month, the water was on the earth for 150 days. Now jump over to chapter 8 and let's read verse 4.
Genesis chapter 8, verse 4.
Actually start verse 3 and then read verse 4 and 5.
Verse 3. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. After the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated.
So after 150 days, the waters were abated. They stopped. What point in time are we at now? Read.
Verse 4. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat.
Upon the mountains of Ararat. All right. So now we see here that it was what time? 7th month, 17th day of the month. So we got second month, 17th day it began. The 7th month, 17th day of the month, it stopped. Between those two periods of time, 5 months elapsed. Within them 5 months, it said that it was 150 days. So we do simple division. 5 divided into 150 gives us what? 30 days. So that lets us know each month was 30 days. But that's not enough, right? We need to find out, well, how many months are there in a year? Is it 11 months? 10 months? 12 months? 12 months. Can we precept that? Anybody? What you got? First Kings 4 and 7. Kind. First Kings 4 and 7 is going to help us understand, because remember, what we're looking at is the difference between the solar year and the lunar months. It said that the solar year is going to be 11 days longer. 11 days longer than the lunar month. So you got that, First Kings? Go ahead and read that.
The book of First Kings, chapter 4, verse 7. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household. Each man his month in a year made provision.
Each man in a month in his year. So we had 12 officers. Each one represented a month of the year. So we know that there was 12 months in a year. You can write down also Esther, the 2nd chapter, in the 12th verse. It tells you about this 12 months in the year as well. Esther 2, verse 12. So now we've got 30 times 12. What's that? $30 times 12? 360, right? Now, it said that the lunar months was 11 days longer, or 11 days shorter, right? So minus 11 from that. Mm-hmm. Is it 349? No, it's like it from 365. The solar year. Solar year is 365 days, right? And it said that it was going to be 11 days longer than the lunar months. 354, right? Okay, so if we add together both, because we're doing sun and moon, the moon gives us the months, the sun is giving us a year count. So add 354 plus 365, and what do you get? 719. We use two different methods to get to 719, right? We use the lunar and we use the solar. Everybody following? We got 365 days from the solar, 354 from the 11 days longer than the 12 months, was give us a 354. We got 719. Now divide 719 by 2. 359.5, right? So if we round up from the 0.5, we'll get 360, which coincides with what the scriptures pronounce, right? If the scriptures say that there was 30-day months and it's 12 months in the year, that equals 360. We've got 365 from the solar, and they said that that was going to be 11 days longer than the lunar months. So that's when we got the 354. Put them together, we got 719. Divide that by the 2, we get 360. Everybody following? If not, you're gonna have to go back over it and say, man, I got to figure this thing out. What did he say? But hopefully everybody's good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll get it. You know what? Next time I'm gonna put another slide to just break it each one down. So everybody gets it. Yeah. All right. But we'll get to it. So let's give Sharasa, this is a slide that you was asking for.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, all right, come. All right, so let's move on. So Hebrew lunisolar calendars. This is what I was talking about. Every 3 years, it starts at the 3rd year. Then it's going to go another 3 years. So we'll have an intercalary month in the 3rd year, in the 6th year. So that's another 3 years. So every 3 years, then it's going to drop to the 2 years. Then it goes back up. So you see here, 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, 19. This is just a cycle. Not to confuse anybody, just know that there's a pattern of how the sun and the moon interact with each other and when they fall out of sync. So it starts every 3 years, up, they're out of sync. We're going to have to add a month. After that 3-year period, okay, we're going to wait 2 more years. It should happen again. That's what happened with us before. The last time that we had, I think the last time we had an intercalary month, I think it was 2021. And now in the 2024, 2025 year, we're going to have to do it again. So that's 3 years, right? Okay. So it's the pattern is shown when we have to do it. Now notice it says here, the Hebrew solar calendars, the years 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 are the long 13-month years of the Metonic cycle. This cycle forms the basis of the Christian ecclesiastical calendar and the Hebrew calendar, and is used for the computation of the date of Easter each year. So the Christians, they utilize it to make sure that Easter stays in the springtime. We utilize it to make sure the Passover stays in the springtime. All right. Now, here's another thing. The intercalary month is inserted in the calendar to harmonize it with the solar year. So that's when Esau says, oh, it's a leap year. Did anybody, we see it in school. When you come up in school, they say, oh, it's a leap year. And they just add another day in February. We never understood why they're doing it. They talking about, oh, the groundhog. We're waiting for the groundhog to look up, and it's going to be a longer winter. And what? Get out of here with that foolishness, man. The groundhog comes up. Oh, it's going to be a longer winter. So we're going to have to wait till he pops up. And no. Go to Psalms 11:3. See, sometimes, we read earlier that said that it can't be found in the scriptures. So sometimes, brothers will say, yeah, I don't see intercalary in the scriptures, man. Y'all adding to the word. We can't do that. And they get all frazzled because they don't want to make adjustments and don't want to follow along with what the scripture says. There's something, that's why we read in Proverbs 25:2. There's some things we got to be sought out in order to understand how the creation of the Most High works and seeing how the seasonal times operate. So Psalms 11:3, read that.
The book of Psalms, chapter 11, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do?
So we know that the foundations of the earth is all out of course and destroyed. What do? We make adjustments accordingly. That would be the same thing, like I said earlier, with somebody wondering, if I live in Alaska, what do I do? Foundation of course. What can the righteous do? Still continue what? Observe and follow and rehearse the righteous acts to the best of one's ability. Okay. Psalms 82:5. Let's read that. And I'm going to show an example in a little bit how, if we don't make adjustments, what happens with our calendar and what happens with our seasonal feasts. Okay. Psalms 82:5. Read that.
The book of Psalms, chapter 82, verse 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course.
Right. So there's matters of when we see the sun and the moon moving out of course, things that may affect our calendar. What we have to do, we observe and we adjust accordingly. 1 Corinthians 14:40 tells us everything's got to be done decently and in order. Right. So even our feasts have to be kept in order, even if that means that we have to do adjustments within our monthly counts to make sure that it stays right. Okay. I'll read this a little bit. It says, during leap years, Adar 1, which will be our initial 12th month, right? Remember, Adar is the 12th month. We, in the intercalary month, you may hear the term, a second Adar. That means the 13th month. Okay. When you hear anybody talk about it's the second Adar, double Adar, they're speaking about having to add another month to the year. Okay. So Adar is the 12th month. It says during leap years, Adar 1 or Adar Aleph or the first Adar is added before the regular Adar. Adar 1 is actually considered to be the extra month and has 30 days. Adar the second or Adar Bet is the second Adar. It's the real Adar and is usually the 29 days. For this reason, holidays such as Purim and are observed in Adar 2 and not Adar 1. Okay, so just give you a little understanding about that. Let's look at this. Give me Acts 12 and 4 as I read this. This is history regarding Rome and their calendar, the Julian calendar and whatnot. All right. It said the Julian calendar was in general use in Europe and North Africa until 1582, when Pope Gregory XIII promulgated the Gregorian calendar. Reform was required because too many leap days are added with respect to the astronomical seasons of the Julian scheme. On average, the astronomical solstices and equinoxes advanced by about 11 minutes per year against the Julian year. As a result, the calculated date of Easter gradually moved out of alignment with the March equinox. So, in other words, what was happening was they were realizing that the equinoxes and the settling in of the new moons, it was backing up slowly but surely, and they start realizing, oh, Easter and so forth, it's falling out of season. What's going on? And that's when they realized adjustments had to be made. Well, that's when the Romans did. We was already understanding what we needed to do. Acts 12 and 4, read that.
The book of Acts, chapter 12, verse 4. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to four quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people.
After Easter, and we all know that when we see Easter, there it's Pesach, meaning unleavened bread or Passover. All right, so I think there was a brother in Trinidad, Shemaiwan. He was telling me there was some ladies that was down there, and they was harping on him about the Passover was done when Christ died, and he's wrong for keeping it. Clearly, we see Passover still being kept after Christ died. God, I mean, what is wrong with these people? They're so quick to want to just try to stash away the laws, and we ain't got to follow it no more, and things have changed. We're under the new covenant, and Christ paid the debt, and we ain't eating that dang lamb, and we're just going to keep participating in communion and eat a little bread and crackers and juice. Everything else they ain't following, you know. So that's what we're seeing here. This is what they understood and knew. The calculations were still going on even during the time of Acts. All right. So it says the Gregorian calendar was devised both because the lunar calendar had grown conspicuously wrong, and the mean Julian calendar is slightly too long, so that the vernal equinox slowly drifts backwards through Julian calendar years. This caused problems in computing the date of Easter. So I'm gonna skip this part. Let's get right to the point here. So the equinox, that's what determines our spring season. Okay. The spring equinox, even in Spanish, they call it primavera. That's the springtime. Okay. The equinox is what determines our spring. That's what we look for when it comes down to observations of the Passover, which is the first month of the year. Before we go there, give me Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23. And let's get to let's read start at 1 and read verse 2.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
So these are all the feasts of the Most High, starting with what? Read.
Verse 3, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
So the Sabbath is the first convocation that we're acknowledging based upon creation. It operates on its own cycle. We don't wait for the moon to determine when the Sabbath is. Sabbath is already in motion. Okay, read on.
These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
In their seasons, we have to make sure that our feast days are held within their seasons. Okay, so we'll get more in depth about that right now. So going back over here, the equinox, that determines the spring season. Okay, so here's what we're looking for. The time when the sun crosses the plane of the Earth's equator, making night and day of approximately equal length all over the Earth, occurring around March 21st. All right. So we got a vernal or a spring equinox. That's what we utilize to determine the new moon. The new year. Then you've got a autumn equinox, September 22nd. Give me Job 38. Job 38. Yeah, you can take him outside for me. Job 38. Let's read 24 down to 27.
The book of Job, chapter 38, verse 24. By what way is the light parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth? Who hath divided a water course for the overflowing waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder, to cause it to rain on the earth, where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man.
So we're talking about how the Most High establishes rain, how he replenishes the earth, showing his power and his glory, right? Continue on.
To satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth.
To spring forth. That's where the concept of spring comes from. Why? Because it's when the tender herbs start to show forth their buds. They start showing forth their establishment of their growth. Okay, that's a springtime. That's what a bib means. A bib means green ear. All right, give me Psalms 50 and verse 8. Jump back over there. It's not Psalms, Sirach. Sirach 50 and 8. Now we know Genesis 8 and 22 says there's two seasons, winter and summer. But the scriptures also acknowledge that there's still phases throughout the year that even spring is acknowledged. Sirach 50 and 8. Why I want to say Psalms all the time?
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 50, verse 8. And as the flower of roses in the spring of the year, as lilies.
In the what time of the year?
In the spring of the year.
Go ahead. As
lilies by the rivers of waters, and as the branches of the frankincense tree in the time of summer.
So we see here that there's even determinations of spring and summer. So, a lot of times you may have some who don't even acknowledge an equinox. They just go off a robotic calendar, be it the lunar calendar or whatever the case may be, where they won't even pay attention to seasons. Spring ain't in the scriptures. What? No, I just read it. So, yes, we do have a determination of when our springtime hits, and it's called a bib. So let's go there in Deuteronomy 16:1. 16:1, and then we'll read Exodus 12 and 2.
Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God.
Mm-hmm.
For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
That's right. So the Most High told us we got to observe, meaning what? We got to watch and wait and see when that Abib comes in, right? And then we're going to understand and know, even through our counting of the 30 days, we'll know how to count down when we determine our months, our days. We see the 15th day is going to be full. All you got to do is start counting backwards, 14, 15 each day. By the time you get back down to zero, you look up, you shouldn't see nothing out there. And then you continue on from there. All right. So it says here, signs of spring. The vernal equinox signals the beginning of nature's renewal in the northern hemisphere. Worms begin to emerge from the earth. Ladybugs land on screen doors. Green buds appear. Birds chirp and flowers begin to bloom. All right. Give me Exodus 12 and 2.
Book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Why do we have to get that told to us? We didn't know. Did we forget? You dang right we did. We've been in Egypt for dang near 80 years in captivity, and before that, we was in there for another 400 years. We're talking at the close of 430 years. We start following after their ways. So as we're coming back into understanding who we are, we had to be told, observe, this is the month of Abib. This is the beginning of your months. Right now in the springtime, forget what Egypt was talking about. Forget all that. This is the beginning of the months. Jump over to chapter 13, verse 4. Just like now, when we're coming up out of our spiritual captivity of a bondage of Egypt, and we're thinking the new year started January 1st. And no, now we're coming to learn a bit. This is going to be the beginning of your month. Now, all of a sudden, we all are saying the same thing. That ain't the first of the month. That ain't our month. We don't recognize that no more. Our beginnings of months is called Abib. That's in the beginning of the summer. I mean, the spring. Same thing they was doing back then. Okay, go ahead.
The book of Exodus, chapter 13, and verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
This day came ye out in the month of Abib, and it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land.
That's all I needed was 4. Yep. So the month of Abib. So looking up the word Abib or Abib means what? Fresh young ears. Dropping down, it says green, a young ear of grain. That's how we determine green ears of corn, not maize. That's when we start seeing the crop start showing up and budding. That's why when we read in Sirach 50 and 8, not only we talked about with the spring, but it said in Job, when the rain start hitting, that's when the buds start springing up. That's when we start getting the observation and say, okay, it must be springtime. You know, we're starting to see things not during the winter time and spring, fall. What? The leaves are falling off. The trees are withering. Then they go through a cycle throughout the year, and then they're going to start bringing back life again. Okay. Especially in states where they get plenty of rain, snow, so forth and so on. A lot of farmers, man, you ain't got to worry about cultivating the land and all that other stuff because they're getting a lot of moisture and nutrients just from the rain and from the snow and the dews and everything else. And by the time spring kicks in, they looking up and they like, the grass used to be dead. Oh, the garden used to be dead. Now all of a sudden you start seeing green buds and green ears popping up. You saying, I didn't even have to touch it. But they looking, they seeing through observation. Okay, it's that time now. All right, let's continue. So let's see. So a solar year, it means the time that it takes the Earth to pass once around the sun for the instance from vernal equinox to vernal equinox. So from spring to spring determines this whole solar year. We did the calculations. We're understanding this lunar solar year, which we'll get through in the 60 days. All right. Just a simple search looking through. I use DuckDuckGo, but even with Google, you just type in when's Passover 2024, April 22nd. That is the date that we calculate, and it wasn't because I used Google. I just did this just to see, well, are they on point to where we calculate? Yeah, they are. Some have April 21st. We calculate as April 22nd, and that's the reasoning is because based upon when the new moon hit, it didn't hit until that Monday. All right, during the day, which means we're gonna keep it in the evening. You good? Oh, okay. I thought you had a question. Give me Proverbs 3:31.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 31. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
Right. So we're not going to listen to what he's talking about New Year is and all this other stuff no more. We've got a clear understanding now of what we are determining our years and our celebrations, our convocations by is based upon what the Most High gave us. All right. Here's another understanding too. You know that term once in a blue moon? That's all based upon intercalary months. That's all based upon what happens is because of the lunar and the solar aspects of creation falling out of sync, we'll end up having 2 new moons in 1 month. How do we account for that? You can't determine it's 2 months in 1 month, so we have to extend out a month in order to make sure that the calendar stays within sync. I'll show y'all in a minute. So the definition of a blue moon has changed over the years. However, the commonly accepted definition of a blue moon is simple. It's a full moon that rises twice in 1 month. It happens because sometimes the number of days in the calendar month are greater than the cycle of the moon, which is 29.5 days. This can cause the moon to rise twice in 1 month, near the first and the last days of the same month. It is said that blue moons happen every 33 months or about every 3 years. This is relatively rare occurrence has spawned the same once in a blue moon, right? So here's our calendar for this month. Now, this is an application. One of the applications that we use is called Quick Phase Pro. And this is where you'll see the determination. I know it's kind of small, but can y'all at least see up here the month? November? Okay. So we see here they have a new moon coming in on November 1st and then also on the 30th. So when we see that, automatically we know that there's going to be an issue with the calendar for 2024 through 2025 because there's been an issue with 2 new moons popping up in 1 month. Now, once we actually do the calculations and we're looking, observing, and comparing and contrasting, it's actually going to come in a little bit earlier, around the 31st of October, as opposed to the 1st. But it's still enough to where we have to still push an intercalary month. All right. So this is where we run into a problem. You know, if somebody's making a calendar and they're just copying dates, and then they hand it to their people, and they're gonna say, "Hold on, we're having 2 new moons in November." Yeah, that's what the observatory said. No, we can't do that. All right. So let's look here. This here is the new moon for this year, right? Even when we calculate. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show y'all a better way. I'm gonna show y'all through the app. And this is just, like I said, just one aspect of observation, but it's going to be even more clear when I do it this way. All right, so everybody can see this, right? It's not up. Oh man. Yeah, but it logged me out. So now it's trying to tell me I gotta go back and activate it again. See, Satan's acting a fool. I was about to do it. All right, let me switch it up. Cause it logged me out. I gotta find. Give me 1 second, y'all. I gotta find my Give me 1 second, because it logged me out and I need to find my key code to log back in. All right. So we should be back on. Let me share now. Okay. So let's look back here. So this year, we're looking at, this is January. So I'm going to go to the month view. See up here, I'm in January 2024. I'm going to go to March. Now, according to what we just looked at on the PowerPoint, it said that it was going to be March 10th, I believe, the new moon, right? Now, watch this. If you open up the app, you see the time. It says it's 99.8%. It's a new moon. On what day? Sunday the 10th. Everybody see that? Sunday, March 10th at 12 a.m. But what we got to remember is Esau says a new day begins when? 12 a.m. Okay, so we're going to back up a couple hours. I backed up 1 hour. What days it say?
It's a little bit blurry.
Sunday, March
Your phone is
Saturday.
Okay. I don't know how to the it's better now. Okay, so as long as I highlight it, y'all can see it. So all of a sudden now there's a big difference, right? So if I still back up, it's still saying on Saturday night at 11 o'clock, it's still a new moon. So when am I supposed to determine that it's a new moon then? Well, we're still in the moon ruling that night, right? It's Saturday night still. Look up here. Saturday, March 9th. It's 8 o'clock. It's still saying the new moon is getting ready to come in. So we're at 8 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock now. What we're looking at here is still 0% full. It's 99.3%. Let's continue another hour. Another hour. We're at 99.6 and it's only 11 o'clock at night, Saturday night. Keep that in mind. Now we're at 100%. It's fully new, but it's saying it's Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning. Is it truly Sunday, 1 in the morning, or is it Saturday, 1 o'clock in the morning? Everybody following? So when will we keep the new moon then? Saturday night. So the true new moon is March 9th. We're bringing in the new moon March 9th because it came in Saturday evening. That's why you can't go look at these other apps and see a date, because the date we just seen earlier said March 10th, right? So we don't do that. So March 9th, go ahead.
It says Saturday, it's coming in Saturday evening.
So
as soon as the sun go down that Saturday, that's the new moon.
It's going to come in later that night, right? So what we do, we observe, we see, okay, it's not supposed to kick in until 2 in the morning, but we're going to bring in the new moon that evening, because why? The moon is still ruling that night. Now, let's say if it came up at 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon, we got to wait until the sun goes down Sunday night, and then we keep it in, because it's still going to be within this 24-hour cycle, right? So we still got 12 hours from 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning. It's still going to be in this cycle, right? So that's why we determine it based upon when we notice and see that it's going to kick in. So that's what we see. So that'll be Saturday the 9th, right? This is going to be our 12th month. Now, if we look on the 12th month, right? So let's say here, this is the new moon for Abib. This is supposed to be the first new moon of the year. Can we determine that? Because we just got to seeing that Abib doesn't come in until, or it's not determined to be spring until the 20th or the 21st. So can we determine that the new year started before the season has hit?
No, we gotta wait.
We gotta wait. Because otherwise, what do? If we say no, we're not paying attention to that. We're gonna start day one of the new moon. This is the first day of the year. This is Abib, in other words. If you don't add a second month, Abib starts right now, March 9th. So let's count for the Passover. When's the Passover? 14 days at even, right? So here's day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right? That's the 14 begins that evening, but we're going to keep it. The 14th day will end on the 23rd. Even will be here. So somebody said, well, yeah, we're keeping the Passover in the springtime. Yeah. But you determined your Abib before the springtime. So just because you're keeping Passover 2 days after spring started doesn't mean you're still in season, because your Abib wasn't in season. But no problem. We'll leave it at that. They say, brothers, sisters, well, we're justified. We still kept it in the spring. No problem. We'll leave it at that. Now, let's go to a year from now. So here we are in March 2024. Let's go all the way. 2025. And we'll just face value look at the months. Okay. So now, let's go back. Now, look where it says that the new moon is now for Abib in 2025. If we don't add a leap year, it's going to be February 27th. You see how it keeps going out of season? So now we will start our Passover count here. Okay, November 27th. You don't add to day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That should be the Passover in 2025 if we don't add a leap year. Are we in season at all? We're already starting Passover now. Okay, you said we kept it in springtime. Y'all are off. Okay, wait till next year. Let's see if it's still the same. Next year, you 10 days earlier. Here we are on the 13th. Spring ain't even hit yet. Well, I don't know about that, but we're keeping it. Okay, let's go to 2026. Now look where we at. February 17th. You see how the pattern goes? Now, because we determine and understand if by the 2026 Passover is going to be the first week of March, damn near, and it's just going to keep going back and forth. Passover is going to be all the way in damn near January. You keep it up. So in the dead of winter, how you going to determine that's a bib? Impossible. You all off. It throws every feast off. So that's why we don't determine that March 9th is a bib. We wait until after the springtime, after the green ear, after the spring has been determined, then we can declare a new moon after the season has been declared. That's when a bib comes in. So we wait till after the equinox. I believe it's going to be around the 20th. It usually falls between the 20th and the 21st. I believe this year is going to come around the 20th. After that passes, then we can determine our new moon. This would be our Abib year. This would be the beginning. Then we start establishing our count for Passover. Everybody follow? All right. So this is why when some say, I don't see any calorie out. Do you see that the earth is out of course? Do you see that we have to make adjustments so that we can make sure that we're keeping the seasonal feast days? This is why we do what we have to do. All right. Almost done. Let's go to let's jump over to I had this highlighted, but I think I just covered it just by going through the cycles. Go to Exodus 9. Exodus 9, 28 to 32. This is going to help us understand too how we determine and understood seasonal time, Abib. Exodus 9. Let's start at verse start at 27 and then read down to 32.
The book of Exodus, chapter 9, verse 27. And Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. The Lord is righteous.
So prior to this is one of the plagues. The Most High sent the fire and hail and destroyed a lot of the crops, destroyed a lot of things in Egypt, right? So if you read up further, this is when the Most High sent forth the thunder, the hail. It rained on the ground. It ruined a whole lot of crops and everything that Egypt had going on. Okay. Now here's Pharaoh trying to repent to Aaron and to Moses, saying, hey, I've sinned this time. The Lord's righteous. Me and my people, we wicked. Tell them stop. Go ahead.
And I and my people are wicked. Entreat the Lord, for it is enough that there be no more mighty thunderings and hail, and I will let you go.
You're right.
And ye shall stay no longer.
Mm-hmm.
And Moses said unto him, as soon as I am gone out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto the Lord, and the thunder shall cease.
See, Moses wasn't a fool. He said, no, I'm gonna wait till I get up out of here before I stop it. You ain't gonna have me stop it now, and you gonna, throw me back into bondage and oppress. He said, no, let me get away first. I put my hands up and the Lord, praise the Lord, and we'll have an end to the hail and to the rain of the storms. Read.
Neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know how that the earth is the Lord's. But as for thee and thy servants, I know that you will not yet fear the Lord God.
Mm-hmm.
And the flax and the barley was smitten.
So flax and the barley. So you're saying, well, okay, well, how do them things grow in these particular situations? If it was springtime, I mean, if it was wintertime leading up into the spring, or how were they already grown and there wasn't green ears? Well, you've got such things called winter barley. There's certain crops that grow during winter seasons that thrive within winter conditions and colder conditions. So that's what that's what they had. So the winter barley and the flax, those things was grown. And they said those things all got destroyed from the fire and the hail and from the rains and thunders. All right, but what else? Read.
For the barley was in the ear, and the flax was bold, but the wheat and the rice were not smitten, for they were not grown up.
They hadn't grown up yet, because those things need to be planted during the springtime, and then they start budding up and start growing after the spring season has been completed, leading up into the summer. That's when we start getting the barley harvest and things of that nature. But they start noticing, oh, okay, well, there were certain things that hadn't budded yet. A bib hadn't been determined yet. We're getting ready to go into that springtime, leading up out of Exodus. All right, so that's just showing you that observation of looking even at the crops was understood during those times. All right, was that it? The 32? Yeah, it said, but the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up yet. All right. Let's look here. So let's look at no, I don't need that. Whatever. I think we're good. Yeah, that's cool. So hopefully everybody got a little bit better understanding on calculating the feasts and the calendars. Anybody got any questions before we go online? Any questions regarding the calendar? So everybody's clear how many days are there in a month? How many days? I mean, how many months in a year? Right? When's a bib? January. What? That's right. Between March and April, man. Can we determine a bid before the equinox and here before spring is determined? No, we gotta wait. We see spring clearly in the scriptures. We see that our people observed, see where the crops was growing, the green ears was budding, whether or not they did. That will determine whether or not we can say it's a bib or not. We can't do it before, because what's gonna happen? We're gonna fall out of season. And Jay's gonna be having they dang Passovers right after dedication in the wintertime. So all praise honor glory to the Most High while outside. On to the brothers and sisters that's online, man. We're gonna go ahead and close out. Most High be with everybody. Hold on, got a question on here. Question of what would the upcoming year be according to scripture and data we have today? Bayan, I'm about to get with you on your question. I'm not really understanding when you say what year would it be. Are you talking about just the regular calendar year as a particular 2024, or is it a different year? I'm not sure. Hit me up and we'll talk about it. All right, other than that, man, y'all be well. Shalom.